Hello Art Stars, and welcome back, and welcome to anyone new joining us today. My name's Veronica and I'm one of the art teachers on the Art Stars Saturday School programme, and I'm really happy to be back and have you here again. And yeah, welcome, thank you for joining us. Today we're going to do a bit of still life drawing, and we're going to be looking at shadows, lighter and darker tones, and different ways in which we can draw just with simple materials. Um, and what you're going to need is a sheet of paper or a sketchbook. I've got a sketchbook here. I like to keep my pictures together. Just a normal pencil, an HB or a B range pencil, anything like that is amazing. An eraser's useful. If you've not got one, it doesn't matter, it's fine, it's not essential. And some interesting objects to draw, some still life objects. So still life means things which aren't living or moving. I'll give you some examples. I've got some little interesting objects here. Things with, I like objects with lots of detail on that I can draw. These two ceramics. So it could be a favourite toy. It could be a piece of fruit or vegetable, anything like that. Like I say, it's good to go for something with a lot of detail on and try and get that in the picture. What I'd like you to do today, ideally, if you've got time, is to follow me step by step with my drawing, and then afterwards you can go on and choose some objects of your own around the house, and then do your own still life drawing of those. Taking into account what we've covered today and what we've practiced. So I'm just going to move the camera down so you can see what I'm doing. Here we go. So the first thing is, when you're doing a drawing, you want to consider which way you want your paper to be. So this way is called portrait, and this way is called landscape. And the artist will decide which way up to work dependent on what it is they're drawing. So for example, if they're doing a portrait, a picture of a person, it's good to have the paper this way up, then they can fit the body in, or the top half of the body. So if they're doing something tall, they can work this way up, like I say, a tree or a building. If they're doing a landscape or a park or something that's wide as opposed to tall, this way is the best way up, landscape. What I'd like you to do to start, we're just going to practice some line pressure. Those of you that have done the Art Stars sessions before, I know that you'll be used to doing this by now, but it's really good just to continue practicing. So if you could do this as well, because sometimes it slips our mind to apply these levels of shade and tone. So just at the top of your page, do you want to do a row of very dark pencil lines, like that? Doesn't matter how many. And then a row of medium pencil lines, so lines which are slightly lighter, you're being a bit gentler, applying a bit less pressure. And then some super duper light pencil lines which you could rub out really easily, and if you didn't have an eraser it wouldn't matter because they're so light. Make any changes and it won't matter if they're still on the page. And then either, yeah, if you're working on paper, you might want to turn on to another side. I'm using a sketchbook, so I don't mind, yeah, keeping it on here. But like I say, you might want to turn it over so you don't have these marks on your picture. And I'm going to choose an object to draw. And like I say, again, the orientation, if I work landscape or portrait, will depend on which object I go with. So if I went with this little ceramic cat creature, landscape would be best. If I went with this duck as a candle holder, portrait to fit it in. I think I'm going to go with this little guy now. And so I'm going to work landscape. It's a good idea to put mine on my paper now, so you guys can see the shadows as I draw. It's a good idea to put them on a white background, or put them down on something white, because then you can see, as you can see here, we've got the shadows coming underneath, so we get an idea of how they look, where we want them to go. Like I say, put it on your page, or if you don't want to be restricted, put it on, put your object on when you come to draw your own, on a white background. I'm working with good light. It's the morning at the moment, and I've got the windows open, so like I say, I can see the shadow quite easily. It depends on what time of day you work, how clear the shadow is. So like I say, just follow me step by step here, and then you can go off to do your own. In fact, I'm just going to, for now, I'm just going to move it down here, just so I've got a bit more room. And I'll bring it back up when I want to do the shadow. So we're going to start off using your very light pencil line, and this is a really good practice to get into. When you're drawing, when you draw out your shapes, flesh them out really lightly first. So use your absolute lightest line. I'm going to make mine a tiny bit darker just so you can see. And as I'm just drawing the one object, I'm going to make it really big so I'm filling up most of my page. So there we go, I'm going to do a circle, like an oval shape for the head, like this. There we go. Like I say, mine's a bit darker, just for the for you to be able to see as I'm working on camera here. If you can make yours super light, like I say, if you make any mistakes, you can then change it and just flesh it out. There we go. I'm going to put body on here. I'm going to go on a bit low with the back. Like I said, I'm drawing quite a small object, but I'm going to make it make my picture nice and big. If you're drawing a variety of objects after you've copied me, you might want to make them quite small. So, like I say, follow me. I'm just going to put the leg in. Follow me step by step. And then go on to your own. So the top of the leg's hidden there. Put that out. There we go. So we've got two legs, and I can see the corner of the leg coming down past this back one here on the inside. And then goes out. There we go. Lovely. And I'm going to add some detail onto it now. So now's the time to think about the different levels of shade and tone. So there's different colours on this little ornament. It's a ceramic piece. And as we're not using colour, I want to be able to show which are lighter colours and which are darker. So I can use my dark tone for where the blue is, light tone for pink, dark for green, just to show those contrasts in the colours. And I'm going to put some little ears on. So I'm going to do some semicircles at the top. Oval shapes like this. So you've got the shape out. And then inside, using a medium pencil line, I'm going to do repeat those shapes again, not make it too dark. And I can see a little bit of shadow at the top of the ears. So if when you're drawing you squint at the object that you're drawing, so half close your eyes, it makes it really, any shadows really visible, as well as the lighter and darker areas of colour on the piece. And I'm just going to do a bit of shading down the side. So again, I'm just showing the shadow here. I'm really lightly in pencil, just shading in down the side of my cat's face. Like I say, do this really lightly. Don't press down too hard, and just use your finger to smudge. And the thing is as well, with adding, doing shading and toning and adding in shadow, it makes objects appear three-dimensional. So it's showing their third dimension. They're not all flat. It's showing the view where they're not flat. Do a little bit of shading behind the head. Like I say, it's good if you, well, if you're doing this video now, you'll be doing it in the morning, so you should have better light. Good light. It's a good time to do it. And like I say, generally when you're doing still life, if you can, morning is a good time when you're under non-artificial lighting. There we go. So there's the head with a bit of shading on. And I'm going to add in the facial features. So the eyes. The eyes come about a quarter of the way down the face. You might want to do them lightly to start in case you make a mistake, and then go over them and make them dark. So I'm just going to do a curved line across horizontally and then down vertically like that on one side. And I'm going to make it, like I said, they're painted on the ceramics, so they're quite dark. I want to show that. There we go. So I've got those lines. And for the eyes, just going to draw on like a rugby ball shape underneath. Like I say, you might want to do yours lightly and then go over it, make it a bit darker. We just want them to be quite prominent, quite clear for people that are looking. There we go. And I'm going to fill out the inside in the middle with a big oval shape. So it would be the equivalent of the iris, pupil, nice and dark. There we go. And then for the nose is a very light pink shade, like a baby pink. So underneath those two lines, for the eyes, I'm going to do two really light crosses, really lightly in pencil, quite thick. Oh, sorry, I meant two lines to make a cross, so one cross. Okay. There we go. And that's the nose and mouth. And like I say, you can really see that contrast between the dark and the light there. And that really adds to the dimension. With those eyes, it looks a bit like if you look at medieval bestiaries, so the very old pictures of cats and dogs, or just animals, and they had human faces. It's reminding me a bit of that at the moment. It's quite interesting. So I'm just going to do some overly sausage shapes. I'm going to do 4 of them above the eyes. And these are a green. The green is slightly lighter than the blue that I've used for the eyes. So I'm going to do a kind of medium-ish tone there. Shading in slowly. And there's not too much shading to do today, but I normally say to people when they're drawing and they're doing lots of lighter and darker areas, and there is a lot of shading or detailing to do, I just say, if you just rest your elbow on the table in the palm of your hand as well, so it doesn't get too sore. It's a good idea. There we go. And I'm going to give it some whiskers. It's got some gold whiskers, so I'm going to use the same lightish medium tone I've used for the inside of the ear. And there's 3 on each side, and they're quite thick. They're, again, that oval shape, sort of thick, and gets slightly thinner as we go outside. Okay. I think I'm going to move. In fact, I'm going to move this side so it's slightly lower. And like I say, this is why it's good to do things lightly in pencil in case you make a mistake. I'm just going to draw this way round. There we go. So those are the gold whiskers. They're very shiny actually. When I look at them, you can see different things reflecting off them. It's a bit like a little mirror. Oh, in fact, when I see it that way, we've got 4 whiskers, so I'm going to put another one underneath. I'm going to do some variations inside of the whiskers, so some dark and some light to indicate the shine on them, to give the viewer that impression. So a bit of dark and a bit of light inside. There we go. And the other one as well. And obviously when you move your head and it reflects off there, the lines move to different places. I'm sure my printer's just decided to make some noises. There we go, stop. There we go. Lovely. And just draw what you can see. Like I say, so for this picture now you're copying me, but for advice for when you do your own piece, just whatever way you put it, you'll be looking at it from a different angle. So if you've got it this way, you're going to see a different angle if you're looking at the back, obviously, to if you're looking at the front or if you're looking at the side. So really just pay attention to what you can see. Like if the legs are hidden, for example, or part of the face is hidden, don't guess and draw them on. Just draw exactly as you can see and what you can see. Now I'm going to draw, there's some swirly lines up the legs, which are supposed to be plants. The artist representation of a plant. So I'm going to draw that on. Again, this is a light green, so I'm going to shade it in kind of medium tone, the same that I've shaded in the lines above the eyes, look a bit like eyebrows. So again, just resting your hand, work slowly, take your time. Try and avoid leaving any white areas inside there, and be especially slow when you come up to the edges to avoid going over them. There we go. And above that there's another little shape like this. Draw that out lightly in pencil, and that's a really light baby pink, so I want that to be lighter than the area I've just shaded. And some little ovals coming off of that. Big flower shape in dark blue. 1, 2, 3, 4 petals like that. A bit like a tadpole. There's a wiggly line coming off it that goes almost to the top of the cat. And like I said, it's quite dark, so we want this to be dark like the eyes. We can use a dark pencil line. So we're using these variants of shading, but when we're drawing, like I said, when we draw the initial shapes, we always want them to be done very lightly in pencil, because if we make a mistake, we can rub it out with an eraser, or if you're drawing, you don't have an eraser on you, you can just work into it and make the changes. That in, nice and dark. Take your time. we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 very light baby pink shade, pastel pink I should say, ovals, it's changing scale following that shape that we've just drawn across to the back. Like this. And just at the top we've got a curved line like this, which is in red, so I'm just going to show that in using a medium pencil line. Like I say, if you're not using colours or paint, it's just giving someone that's looking the impression of how this object that we're drawing looks. So if it's lighter or darker in places, and like I say, just to give the feel of dimension. So it's not completely flat, 'cause if it's all in one shade it can look very two-dimensional, very 2D. And when we're working in pencil, it's a good chance to show those dimensions. Okay. And underneath the blue flower, I'm going to do 1, 2, 5. 5 more ovals. I'm going to make these a little bit darker, so they're going to contrast with the top ones. And drawing's all about looking, really. If you're drawing from life, you find that you imagine things, like I was saying before, to look a certain way. So you might, if you're drawing, say, a side view of a person or an object, or say one of these ornaments like I'm drawing now, for example, you might think, I'm just going to do some little ovals down at the bottom here, some different lines. You might think, say for example, if you're drawing a toy like a teddy bear, if you're drawing it from the side view, you can only see one eye and half the smile, but you might in your head be imagining that you're seeing the other eye or the full smile, and you might be tempted to put it in, but don't. Just focus on what's in front of you and what angle it's at, and drawing it from that way. Because like I say, the more we look, the more we learn, the more we notice things, the more we observe. Okay, I'm going to do another curved line to the side like this, and this is in red, so I'm going to shade that in using a medium pencil line. We're almost finished with the detail now. I'm just going to do some quite long ovals off the side, which look a bit like reminiscent of petals. There we go. And just shade those in using the same shade to represent the red. And then I'm going to put some dark ovals on a darker shade down the side. I'm going to do 4 to contrast it. And down this side I'm going to do 4 lines, very thick lines, like a broken line or a stitched line. There we go. Show the blue. And for this leg, I'm going to do, joining on from one of the petals here, I'm going to do a curved line going up like that. And I'm going to shade that in using my dark pencil line. Again, this is a blue area. And then at one of the sides, I'm going to again do these small lines, like a broken line up. To the top. And then 1, 2, 3 on the other side. I didn't say at the beginning, so I meant to say if you're drawing, I'm just going to do 2 ovals here, yeah, drawing at the same time as me. I'm looking quite quickly just because we don't want the videos to be too long. So you might want to take a bit longer. You might, if you want to pause and take your time with the drawing as I go, that would be great. Just got some different kind of ovals coming up the side leg that I can see in red. There we go, and just some light pink. So very light ovals and lines here. Just going to map those out. And oh, I've missed out, there's a little tail as well. So if there's some room on your paper, do you want to just do a little curved line down for the tail? A curved line down that, and that's in kind of light pastel pink, so just keep that light. And then three very light ovals, which would also be the light pink down there. There we go. And I want to add a little bit of shadow onto it. Like I say, it's very light. There's not a huge amount of shadow on there, so I'm going to squint my eyes, and I can see a really small amount across the top. I'm going to use quite a light line. It's not a dark shadow, and you can also blend with your finger like this. You can smudge, do a bit of shading, and then smudge across the slightly darker areas. On the tail, I think for underneath, I'm going to go down. And just underneath the head like this, down the leg, very lightly. Side of the face, like I say, this really adds to the dimension as well. And at the back of the leg as well, I'm going to add a bit. Oh, and I've just missed out that we've got a green swirly line at the top of the tail. I'm just going to add that in. And there we go. I think that's looking quite lovely. And now for the shadow. I'll just put this here so you can see. I'm getting quite an interesting shadow because of the shape of the ornament. So I can see the legs coming forward. I'm just really super lightly, it's kind of coming off my page a bit, going to map that out with my pencil at the front, and then it gets even lighter toward the middle. And under the feet, where the feet are directly, it's a bit darker, so I'm just going to shade in using a more light to medium line. I want the rest of the lines to be, the rest of the line of the shadow to be super light. And at the front, so I'm just going to block off the front bits. This is showing where the front of the feet are. And really observe this when you're drawing. Look at the shadow underneath. Is it light, is it dark, dependent on what time of day it is, what the lighting in the room's like. Like I said, if you put your object on just a plain white surface, like a piece of paper, that all becomes clearer. The shadow becomes really nice and clear. And using my really, really light pencil line now, I'm just going to shade in the rest of that shape. Can you see where I've just put in the lines here? Really, really lightly, because like I say, my shadow's quite light. You can smudge. Like I say, if you blend and smudge with your finger, that's quite a good way of filling up the space when you're shading, but also it gives you a really light line. There we go. And when you're doing this, just because of the nature of drawing with pencil, you're likely to get some smudges on your page where you don't want them. So just if you've got an eraser, just gently go over, rub those out. And if you want to then make it more prominent, you can go around the outline. All the way around, and then that makes it stand out more. So yeah, do the whole thing like this. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. And what I'd really like everyone to do, if you've got time, is to just follow me there with my steps drawing this cat. So you're following my instructions and practicing the light and dark tone and shades and looking at the shadow. When you've done that, if you've got time, I would love for you to choose an object, like I say, a favourite toy, a piece of fruit, vegetable, anything like that. If you've got something like with something with lots of detail on that looks really interesting on the pictures, because then you can show the difference in shading and tone, and it's a good practice for us to draw very detailed objects. So choose an object to draw yourself. If you've not done much drawing before and it's your first time joining us, yeah, one object is great. If you do a lot of drawing, or you've done Art Stars beforehand and you've done a few of the still lifes with me, I advise, if you want a challenge, maybe taking 2 or 3 objects, placing them together and drawing them together. Obviously you've got more to fit on a page and make them a bit smaller, whereas if you've got one object, make it nice and big, fill up the whole page, put all the detail on. And remember, think carefully about which way up your object's going to go. Landscape or portrait, depending on their scale, their height. And yeah, remember to start lightly in pencil and incorporating some different layers of shading, so dark, medium and light. And yeah, thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you all very shortly. I can't wait to see what you've produced. See you soon.